My child, pause here for a moment, because what you are about to hear was not meant to pass unnoticed. Do not move away from this message too quickly. Something has shifted in the heart of the person connected to your soul, and the change happened more suddenly than even they were prepared for. Heaven has watched the moment unfold. The silence that once felt endless has been interrupted. A truth has risen, a decision has been made, and your soulmate now feels an urgency they can no longer ignore. They need to talk to you immediately, because something big has just happened, and before this message reaches its final moment, you will understand why the timing is more important than it appears. You may have felt it already without knowing what it meant. A strange heaviness followed by an unexpected calm. A memory of them appearing in your mind when you were focused on something else. A sudden feeling that someone was thinking about you with unusual intensity. These moments were not proof of a supernatural promise, but within this fictional revelation, they are part of the emotional thread heaven is placing before you. Your heart has been noticing the movement before your mind could name it. Something behind the scenes has changed, and the person you love is standing at the edge of a conversation they once believed they could postpone. Do not skip what comes next, because the first part of this revelation is not the biggest part. It is only the doorway. For some time, your soulmate has been carrying words they could not organize. Every time they imagined speaking to you, fear interrupted them. Not fear of you, but fear of what honesty might change. They wondered whether revealing the truth would bring you closer or confirm the distance they secretly feared. They rehearsed different versions of the conversation in quiet moments. They deleted messages before sending them. They stared at your name longer than they would ever admit. They told themselves there would be a better day, a calmer time, a clearer sign. But the better day never arrived. Instead, something happened that made waiting feel more dangerous than speaking. There was a moment, ordinary on the outside, unforgettable on the inside, when your soulmate heard something that caused their entire emotional world to become still. It may have been a question from someone close to them. It may have been a conversation they were never meant to overhear. It may have been the sudden realization that life was moving forward while the truth remained trapped inside them. Whatever form it took, it touched the one fear they had tried hardest to avoid. The fear that they could lose the opportunity to tell you what you truly mean to them. And once that fear became real, everything changed. They could no longer pretend the connection was easy to dismiss. They could no longer call it a passing thought or an unfinished chapter. Your name carried too much weight. Your absence had become too noticeable. The possibility of you moving forward without ever hearing the full truth struck them with a force they were not prepared to handle. In that instant, the walls they had carefully built around their emotions began to crack. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting behind the words they are preparing to say. Your soulmate has not been silent because they felt nothing. Their silence grew because they felt more than they knew how to explain. There is a difference, and heaven wants you to recognize it. Indifference walks away without looking back. But this person has looked back in their mind countless times. They have remembered conversations that you may have forgotten. They have replayed the way you responded to them, the way your presence changed the atmosphere, the way you made them feel seen at a time when they were hiding even from themselves. They may have acted unaffected. They may have kept their voice controlled. They may even have made choices that confused you. Yet beneath those choices was a battle between longing and self-protection. One part of them wanted to run toward what felt real. Another part warned them that real love carries real risk. And because they had been disappointed before, they mistook hesitation for safety. But safety became loneliness. That is the first truth they now understand. For a long time, they believed silence protected them from rejection. They thought that by keeping their deepest feelings hidden, they could avoid losing control. They convinced themselves that not saying anything meant nothing could be taken from them. Yet every unspoken word created another layer of distance. Every delayed conversation became another unanswered question. Every day they waited made the possibility of misunderstanding grow stronger. Then came the event that changed their thinking. Someone spoke about you. Your soulmate did not expect your name to enter the conversation. They were not prepared for the reaction that rose inside them when it did. The person speaking may not have known the full story. They may have made an assumption about your future, your feelings, or the direction your life was taking. Perhaps they suggested that you had moved on. Perhaps they implied that someone else would soon recognize your value. Perhaps they simply asked why your soulmate had never told you the truth. That question reached a place inside them that no comforting excuse could touch. Why had they never told you? Why had they allowed uncertainty to speak in their place? Why had they expected you to understand feelings they had never clearly expressed? The room may have remained calm, but inside them, everything became loud. Memories surfaced rapidly. Your kindness. Your patience. The moments when you offered warmth without demanding anything in return. The times you seemed ready to listen, only for them to pull away. They suddenly saw the situation from your side, and what they saw filled them with regret. They realized you may have interpreted their silence as a lack of care. That realization broke something open. Do not rush past this moment, because the next revelation is where the urgency truly begins. After the conversation ended, your soulmate could not return to normal. They tried to distract themselves, but every task felt distant. They picked up their phone and put it down. They walked from one room to another without remembering why. They felt as if time had accelerated, as if a door that had remained open for months or years might close without warning. Then they saw something. It could have been a picture, an old message, a familiar place, or a reminder connected to you. It may have been something small that would mean nothing to anyone else. But to them, it felt like a mirror held in front of everything they had avoided. In that moment, your soulmate understood that the connection had not disappeared simply because it had gone quiet. It was still alive inside them. And what happened next surprised even them. They began to speak aloud, though no one was there to hear. They said the words they wished they had told you earlier. They admitted that they missed you. They admitted that their distance had not brought peace. They admitted that they had compared every new possibility to the feeling they experienced with you, and nothing felt the same. Then came the confession they had never allowed themselves to fully acknowledge. They were afraid you would become the person they regretted losing for the rest of their life. That fear is why they need to talk to you now. But there is more. The big event was not only emotional. Something practical has also shifted around them. A situation they believed was stable has changed. A plan they thought would continue has been interrupted. An obligation, expectation, or influence that kept them hesitant has lost some of its power. What once seemed like a reason to wait no longer feels convincing. A path has opened, but it may not remain open forever. Your soulmate senses this. They know that if they return to old patterns, they could miss the moment. That is why their urgency feels different now. It is not the temporary excitement of someone who is lonely for one evening. It is the sober realization of someone who has seen the cost of continued silence. Heaven is showing you this carefully because you are not being asked to abandon wisdom. You are not being told to chase, beg, or surrender your boundaries. You are being prepared to understand what may be beneath their words when the conversation finally comes. The person speaking to you may sound nervous. They may begin with something ordinary because the truth feels too large to say immediately. They may ask how you are, mention something small, or pretend the conversation is casual. But it will not be casual. Behind the first sentence will be everything they have been carrying. Do not skip, because the most important detail has not yet been revealed. Your soulmate has already made one decision. They have decided that they cannot keep pretending the connection means less than it does. But they have not yet decided exactly how much they will reveal. This is where the tension is building. They are caught between giving you a small piece of the truth and opening their heart completely. A small piece would feel safer. The full truth could change everything. They are asking themselves whether you still care. They wonder if too much time has passed. They fear that you have learned to live without them. They imagine hearing coldness in your voice, and the thought makes them retreat. Yet when they imagine never trying at all, the regret feels even heavier. This is why their emotions are moving back and forth. 1 minute, they feel brave enough to contact you immediately. The next, old doubts return. They begin composing a message, then question every word. They want to sound sincere without appearing desperate. They want to acknowledge the past without becoming trapped in it. They want you to know that something changed, but they are still searching for the courage to explain what caused it. And heaven whispers, truth does not need perfect wording. It only needs an honest beginning. Your soulmate is closer to that beginning than ever before. There is another layer to what happened, and this is the part they have told almost no one. The event that awakened them also exposed a misunderstanding. For a long time, they believed something about you that may not have been true. They may have assumed you did not feel deeply. They may have believed you had forgotten them. They may have accepted someone else's opinion without asking you directly. Or they may have taken one guarded moment from you and used it as evidence that your heart was closed. Recently, they discovered that their interpretation may have been wrong. A detail surfaced. A sentence was repeated. A memory returned with new meaning. They realized that what they saw as rejection may have actually been your own self-protection. What they interpreted as distance may have been disappointment. What they believed was indifference may have been you trying to preserve your dignity after receiving mixed signals. This realization shook them. Because if they misunderstood you, then the story they have been telling themselves is incomplete. And if the story is incomplete, the ending does not have to remain the same. Something huge is waiting for you, but stay with this message because the next truth carries both hope and responsibility. Your soulmate does not only want to tell you how they feel. They need to explain why they behaved in ways that may have hurt or confused you. They know that emotion alone is not enough. They understand, perhaps for the first time, that saying, "I cared," does not automatically erase the impact of silence. They are beginning to see that love must be communicated through clarity, consistency, and courage. This awareness is new for them. Before now, they focused mainly on their own fear. Now they are thinking about what their hesitation may have cost you. They are remembering the moments when you waited for honesty and received uncertainty. They are recognizing that you may have questioned your worth because they could not confront their own emotions. And that thought is difficult for them to carry. They do not want you to believe that you were forgettable. They do not want you to think the connection was only meaningful to you. They do not want their fear to become the final message you remember. So they are preparing to correct it. But there is one truth they are still afraid to admit, even to themselves. The big thing that happened forced them to imagine you choosing someone else. Not as a distant possibility. Not as an abstract future. For the first time, it felt real. Someone may have mentioned another person admiring you. They may have noticed that your energy had changed. They may have seen evidence that you were rebuilding your life, becoming stronger, or no longer waiting in the same way. Perhaps nothing official occurred at all. Yet something made them understand that your heart is not an object they can leave unattended forever and expect to find unchanged. They realized that you have choices. You have a future. You have the ability to be loved openly by someone who is not afraid to speak. And suddenly, their silence no longer looked patient. It looked risky. That was the moment urgency entered their heart. They asked themselves a question that continues to follow them now: what if someone else gives them the certainty I was too afraid to offer? The answer unsettled them. They knew they would have no right to blame you. They knew they could not ask you to remain suspended in uncertainty. They knew that if they lost you because they never spoke, the responsibility would belong partly to them. This is why the conversation can no longer wait. Yet heaven wants you to remain centered. Their urgency does not require your immediate surrender. Their awakening does not erase your journey. You have grown during the silence. You have learned lessons about your value, your boundaries, and the kind of connection your heart deserves. When they speak, listen not only to the emotion in their voice but to the truth in their intentions. Words can open a door. Actions reveal whether someone is prepared to walk through it. Your soulmate may arrive with emotion, but they will need courage to remain consistent after the conversation ends. This message is not asking you to accept promises without discernment. It is preparing you for a moment where your compassion and wisdom must stand together. Because the conversation may contain something you never expected to hear. They are not only thinking about reconnecting. They have imagined a future. This thought once frightened them, so they pushed it away. But after what happened, the image returned more clearly. They imagined what life might feel like if the two of you stopped hiding behind uncertainty. They imagined ordinary mornings, honest conversations, shared plans, laughter after difficult days, and the quiet safety of being fully known. The vision did not feel impossible. It felt like something they had nearly abandoned without ever giving it a chance. That is when regret turned into determination. They began to understand that the connection was not asking them to control the future. It was asking them to tell the truth in the present. They do not need every answer before speaking to you. They only need to stop hiding behind questions they have used as excuses. But there is a reason they may reach out at an unexpected hour. The event that changed everything has created a deadline in their mind. This may not be a literal deadline with a date written on a calendar. It may be an emotional one. They feel that if they do not act now, fear will regain control. They know themselves well enough to recognize the pattern. A powerful realization comes, they feel ready to change, then comfort slowly returns and convinces them to delay. This time, they do not want the courage to disappear. So they may contact you before they feel fully prepared. Their words may come quickly. Their voice may tremble. They may pause often, searching for the right sentence. And beneath everything, one message will be waiting. I should have told you sooner. Do not skip this final stretch, because part 1 is moving toward the revelation they have not yet spoken aloud. There is something your soulmate kept from you, but it is not necessarily the dark secret your fears may imagine. It is a hidden emotional truth. They made a choice in the past that was influenced by how deeply they cared. From the outside, the choice may have looked like withdrawal, distraction, or even rejection. But inside, they were trying to escape the intensity of what they felt. They thought distance would weaken the connection. Instead, distance revealed its strength. They tried to place their attention elsewhere, but memories of you returned. They attempted to convince themselves that another direction would be easier, but ease did not create meaning. They told themselves that time would erase the feeling, but time only stripped away the distractions around it. The truth remained. You mattered. You still matter. And now, after what happened, they can no longer deny it without feeling dishonest. They are preparing to tell you that the silence was never empty. It was filled with unsent messages, unfinished confessions, imagined reunions, and private arguments between fear and love. They may tell you they almost reached out more times than you knew. They may reveal that a specific moment with you became the memory they returned to whenever life felt uncertain. Perhaps it was the way you looked at them without judgment. Perhaps it was the patience in your voice. Perhaps it was a small act of care you assumed they had forgotten. They did not forget. That moment became evidence that something genuine had existed between you. And now, they want to know whether something genuine can still be rebuilt. But before they ask, they must tell you what happened. Here is where the mystery deepens. The event was connected to a decision about their future. They were presented with a direction that would have carried them further away from you, emotionally, physically, or both. At first, they considered accepting it. It appeared practical. It promised stability. It allowed them to continue avoiding the conversation. Then, just before the decision became final, your name entered the moment. Not necessarily because someone spoke it. It may have appeared in their mind with such force that everything else became quiet. They imagined moving into that new future without ever telling you the truth. They pictured years passing. They saw themselves wondering what might have happened if they had chosen courage instead of convenience. And they could not accept that future. So they changed something. A plan was paused. An answer was delayed. A door they were about to close remained open. This is the big thing that just happened. Your soulmate made a decision that preserved the possibility of speaking to you. But they have not yet told you what they turned away from. They have not explained what the decision may cost them. And they have not revealed what they are now willing to risk to have this conversation. Heaven has allowed you to hear this fictional message at the moment before their silence breaks. Not so you can predict every detail, but so your heart can be prepared. You may soon face a choice of your own, whether to listen, whether to ask the questions you once feared to ask, and whether their new courage is strong enough to meet the person you have become. Your soulmate is standing close to the truth now. Their hand is near the phone. Their message is almost formed. Their heart is repeating your name. But one final revelation is holding them still, because before they speak, they must decide whether to tell you only that they miss you, or confess the extraordinary promise they made after everything changed. And the promise they made was about you.